I really want to leave the house, so I want to make this one quick. Um, I think what's on my mind right now is the fact that it's spring now. Yeah, I don't care if somebody says it's not quite spring yet. It bloody well looks it. So it's spring now, and I think for me in my process, it's a lot easier to write during the winter because you want to go to and from these places that are hot inside, cold outside, hot inside, and the comfortability of that, and thank you, the comfortability of that is, you know, staying inside and being inside. The process of being inside. I remember for like the early January, it was pretty much just me sitting inside literally every single day. But I'd get up and I'd write and I'd, you know, that's what it was. But spring and summer rolls around and like, for any writer really, it's fortunate and unfortunate because you can't really write when you're outside. You know what I mean? You can't really write when you're just playing on in a park, you're at a beach, you're going camping, you're climbing a mountain, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, because this spring, you know, it presents a lot of opportunities where people should go out to nature. Always, always pick your rubbish up, you know, leave things how you found them. Um, all sorts, right? Always trying to be good to nature. But we should be out there, you know, embracing it, accepting it, because we live in such densely concrete cities, you know, just tar everywhere. To go out and to just finally, for one day out the year, step on something with your bare feet, you know, um, it's beautiful. So spring and summer comes around, and as a writer, you know, for me, I want to be outside. I want to be going places. I want to be doing things. So you have to balance that, right? You have to balance that. If you go have a really good day outside, you can't just come back in and be upset and be like, ah, I didn't write today. When you're on the top of like Scarfell Pike or Snowdon or something, you know, and it's quite mellow as well. You know, you go out to the beach with friends or family, and you just can't be like, oh, why didn't I write today? Because you were too busy enjoying the goodness of it all. I just brought back a memory, and I'm gonna explain that memory. I must have been halfway through this book, a goated book. I must have been halfway through this book. Oh, was it last year? That wasn't a year ago. God damn. I, wow, you really do read a lot in a year, don't you? Bloody hell. I was about halfway through this book, right? And I decided to just go bike. So I took my bike and we went, not we, me. I went in the coast, right? I just went down Coast Road and I just biked it. I think I got some bungee cord, you know, that type of stuff, and I put it around. And I had a towel. I had this book in there, and I had my wallet on top. Risky business, risque to say the least. And yeah, when I got there, well, I had my shorts wrapped around it as well. When I got there, I started to read, and I started sitting on the beach, and I started reading. I was like, oh, this is nice, you know. McFarlane is honestly an absolute genius of a writer in my eyes, and you know, it's not. To me, this, by the way, this work is so good because of one reason. It doesn't present the facts and gives you all the references and so on and so on and so on, like footnotes, like an essay, like you know. But you know the man's bloody researched it, and you know they are facts. Just because, well, you'd have to do your due diligence, obviously, and it's so digestible in like a fiction way. You could almost read it as like someone's journey, but it's real, and it really does blur the lines, and it's so digestible. It's so good, and this might be. Well, this was probably the first like eco book that I read that completely changed. You know, well, I don't know because I did a lot of things before it, and it made me realize that like I could write something. You know, I could write something to do with nature. Not just a one-off poem, but it made me realize, oh, I can actually do this. And so I was reading it, and the waves were like coming in, and they were crashing. And, um, eventually, I just had the thought of, like, I know I'm reading right now, and I know I'm meant to because class is coming up, and you know I got assignments and stuff. I think this was yeah, like nigh a year ago, maybe like a little bit longer. No, 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 that can't be true. A little bit shorter. So I think I just got that idea of, well, if I have shorts and a towel, and I'm reading about nature, you know, why aren't I in the water right now? And it was that thought that got me, right? Like, there's a balance to strike, and that is, in life you simultaneously want to enjoy yourself, but then create this work of art. When you take like, you know, all those great books, you do have to question. You do have to question. Okay, did this guy just sit in 8 hours a day and write and had no life? Or you know, or do we want a life? You know, do I want a life? Do I want a life? Do I want to go out, go on the waves, have some fun, be on the beach? And you can't read in the meantime, by the way. That's the beauty of it. You can always bring a book on a camping trip. That's the beauty of it. But you can't write necessarily. You can obviously bring out a little notebook, which is good, and I'd suggest, but you're not gonna be able to, you know, nuts and bolts, get deep in the crap. You can't be doing that when you're out there having fun. So you really do have to pick your poison at the end of the day. And it's fine. You know, it's fine. It's good if you want to go out. It's good if you want to stay indoors and write. But it's good if you just say, all right then. Well, I don't want to be in the city, so I'll go somewhere a bit more quiet, and I'll write there. You can always do whatever. You can always go to parks. You can always go to all sorts of places. But I think the key thing for me is that you know you shouldn't be upset at yourself or disappointed because of something you chose, right? If you chose option A and option B comes around, it's just comparison, right? It's a killer. I'd say this spring, this summer, I wholeheartedly want to write this story. I really want to write this story, and it's gonna be about. I think I have some targeted pages. Uh, I have some targeted pages. I have a goal, and I plan on succeeding at that goal, and I plan on making these pages very good. In fact, when they're due in, I believe September, I plan on having a May, June, July, August, and September, which are unbelievably productive, which creates a beautiful piece of work at the end for me to then continue it and finish it after the fact, to give me a head start, to give me a boost, going outside of the post grad and getting out there to the real world, and maybe showing it off to people, the whole rigmarole. But I also intend to go camping with my boys, you know? I also intend to go on holiday. I mean, I have a holiday in April. But I also intend on doing something alone, you know? Just taking myself, going on a wee dander, you know? And being alone for a couple of days. That that I want to do. I'd love to go to Dartmoor, I think it is. Um, yeah, I have a plan for that, but that's a lot of money. I still feel like I have to do that. But I think you also need a refreshment. You also need to be out there, and you also need to think, okay, well, this and that, and all these sorts of things, and my stress and my depression, and my goals and my hopes and my life and my death. What do I think about it, and what should I do? And it's summer, so I have a chance to think and reflect. And the sun brings up time of like question, but question in a good sense. Not like, oh, why am I doing this? But like, why am I doing this? You know, the sun brings up a good chance, a good chance to think about life. I got a couple of paintings here. One was from where one of my boys went for the day in Northumberland somewhere. One is awful from Durham, but it's just like a nice little reminder. One's of Rooker Beach. Rooker Beach is a nice place. I'm not saying Roger, but we went camping. I was a little volunteer with some kids. I got one of their paintings right there. Oh, it's falling down. Let me put it back up. Boom tack, man. I've got all sorts of things lying about, and I'm like, you have to make memories, right? You have to make memories, and sometimes memories gets in the way of being the most product Stephen King arse writer you've ever been, but that's okay, because you bike down, you read, then go in the water, then read when you're out, or whatever it is. The beauty of summer is summer has these like sundown moments, where after every long day, you hit sundown, and it's beautiful. Summer is beautiful. Summer is gorgeous, man. It really is. And those sundown moments, those beautiful moments, there's nothing like them, really. There's nothing like them. So when you go out there, let's say, and you have a nice day, maybe you have a nice day in the lake, maybe whatever it is, right? Go find a lake. Whatever it is, whatever the freedom allows, right? Wherever you're from. If you're from the Philippines, there's probably more dangerous wildlife out there. If you're from London and you just need to get out. First of all, get out of London, shithole. Um, if you're like me and you're in the north, if you want to go up to Scotland, because that's the best choice. If you want to go to the Lake District, whatever it is that you want to do, go do it. And when sundown hits, look, just read or get to writing. And sometimes people can't do that. Sometimes people can't work on sundown. People can't work in the night. Sometimes maybe you have to wake up early. Wake up early. I remember one time. So my second summer on the undergrad was like me and my brother going out and we tried to walk to the Lake District from Newcastle, which was fun. Hurt, but it was fun. Then we had um, Ben Nevis. That was good, and all sorts of other things. But in year one, to sort of like hone this point, is I remember in year one, I read Lord of the Rings, and I think American Psycho, and I know I read something after that, but that was like in the midst of it. That was in the deep of it, right? The worst thing, by the way, that happened was I had to study for my theory test and all that stuff. Um, my close friends know my opinion on driving. Mark of the Beast, if you ask me. Yeah, just I'm not a fan of cars. I'm not a fan of the roads being the way they are. I think it's an abomination to nature. I think it's a desecration of good land that we have, and to put it everywhere. Not the point in this video. Well, whilst I was doing that theory test, I remember I'd wake up, and actually, in fact, on this spot right here, I'd wake up and about 6 or I'm not finishing that one. I'm not finishing that one. 6 or 7 o'clock. Um, I'd wake up about some days 7:30, some days 5:30, depends on what I was feeling. And I quite simply just sit right there. I read. I would read. Um, and that's how it was. The sun would begin to rise, and I'd just read. It would rise a bit more, and I would read. It would rise a little bit more, and I don't know what time it got to. Sometimes it would get to 10, sometimes it would get to 8. But as soon as I felt satisfied and done for the day, I would just continue, right? Continue with life. Before that, during the summer, actually, we did this room out. We did the room to how it looks now. That bloody wallpaper. We painted this. We got carpet. We put decorate everything. It's fantastic. Then did the Lord of the Rings, and then my dog died. God rest his soul. And that was that. And it was a beautiful summer. It really was. Despite him dying, it was a trying time. Because, well, quite simple. Writing is a lifetime endeavor. It's something you're gonna do for the rest of your life. It's something you're committed to for the rest of your life, at least I believe. If you look at Bukowski, so you want to be a writer. Yeah, I feel that. And it's not illegal, and it is not wrong for any writer, up and coming, wanted to go live in the summer and enjoy themselves, right? Because sometimes I do this. I just be killing myself. There's some people who just go out there and hey, it is what it is. Nice summer break. But I'll definitely be thinking some things like, oh, I could have wrote this day, I could have wrote that day, I should have been more productive. Pick your poison at the end of the day. Choose. Because well, let's be honest, right? We're not adults, as we're in our age, right? I'll say like 1 to 25, not even 25. Depends on when you get out of uni. I think that honestly, your last year of uni is your last summer, as that sort of that carefreeness, unless you stay at home for a couple of years and you get the opportunity in. But young people do have a uniqueness about their summers. They do have that. Well, I think it's a well needed time for young people to really find things. And I think during the undergrad, I definitely have to say I found things. I found my love for reading. I found my love for writing. and I went everywhere. In my eyes, I went to so many places. Some days I wrote, some days I didn't. Some days I read, some days I didn't. But I think overall, that's sort of the point, right? That some days you'll write and some days you won't. But it's summer, and summer only comes around once a year, as does spring, as does winter. Uh, well, technically winter comes around twice a year. Is that true? Yeah, at the beginning and end. But summer comes around, and you're left there thinking, okay, well, and I did this on my third year summer last year. I went out to France and I just started biking it, and I realized I wanted to come home because I wanted to write, but even then that wasn't the be all end all, right? Because I went to Greece and I went to Scotland and did all sorts of nature stuff, whilst also taking that chance to bike in France and then feel that, and that felt unbelievable. That was unbelievable. I'll suggest that to anyone. I'll say try and budget as much as you can, and don't give up because it's not that bad. It's not that bad in your mind, It just, and I remember these things, and I remember them deeply, and I remember them fondly. But I'll be honest, I don't quite remember the writing. I don't quite remember the writing because I think writing, for the most part, is this thing where you have a project and you really want to do it, and in the moment it really matters. But outside of that moment of the project, it's not the most important thing in the world. If you're having a baby and you're a writer, your baby is far more important. You know, if 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 you're a writer and life is happening, life is far more important. It's okay. It's okay because eventually, let's say you are a writer and you're writing, you'll finish it and you'll have a manuscript and you'll send them out, and that's just what it is. But you have to live your life. You have to live your life. You can't just, well, you can't sit inside all summer. That's just the truth of the matter. You can't sit inside all summer. So I'll say this summer, it's a beautiful opportunity, and this spring, because it becomes before summer. Yeah, I mean, talk about summer, but realistically, spring's the one that's coming up. It's a beautiful opportunity to live and live as a writer. Every day you do what needs to be done, and you also enjoy yourself. So I think that's the key thing of what happens in life, uh, all the time. Really, you do what needs to be done, and while you're doing it, you try and enjoy yourself. And in the midst of it, and at the end of it, and after it, and on the breaks and all sorts of things, you just try and enjoy yourself. And I think that's the sort of crux of it all, right? The least complicated version of it all is writing's like an indoor activity, but with laptops and stuff, we can extend ourselves. With notebooks, we can extend ourselves, and well, there should never be any of that self-inflicted pain, that self-inflicted, you know, that feeling you get when you just haven't been productive enough. There shouldn't be that in the summer. It shouldn't be the case. But also, you should be productive because you get the opportunity, you get the chance, right? You get the free time. I've seen so many videos recently of people being like, I read 20 books at the end of the year, or I read 10 books at the end of the year because I didn't do them all. And I think that's because it's a consistency thing. Write well in the winter, write well in the spring, write well in the summer, write well in autumn. You know, these are all beautiful months. These are all beautiful days and a time to be alive. You know, so whatever it is, just let life happen. Let it happen to you. Try and make things actually happen sometimes, and enjoy it. Like, I think that's the crucial thing. Is I think the equinox is that right? Yeah, equinox. The equinox has come around, and yeah, I'm sitting here looking at the sky right now, and I think, okay, let's just be honest. Winter's been washed away by that 3 weeks of rain we've had, maybe a month, and it's a bit obvious now. That depression I carried, those blues that I carried, when they're gone, they're gone, and I don't want to try to force myself into a place where I can create more blues because I'm inside and the sun's outside and I'm battling with the idea of between the two. No. Right, but enjoy the weather because that's our privilege, right? That's our privilege as people. And you just try to do what you can. Make a reading list for the summer. That's a nice thing. Try to hit like a word target, a day target. Try to do something like that. Whatever it is. Whatever it is that the readers and writers want to do. But also, go to the beach. Climb a mountain. Go on a stupid walk that takes miles. Go biking. Fall off your bike. Break your chain. Whatever it is. But whatever it is, just go and have a really good time, you know. And just feel that nostalgia. You know, feel that like retrospect even when you're in the now. Aye. I think spring and summer kind of remind you that them blues you feel during winter, it's not what life is fully. The autumn stuff, it's like nice and it's chill and it's mellow and it's like a level of acceptance, and it does bring about thoughts of well, like repentance and regret and loved ones and missing people and missing things. But spring and summer's that time where like you can't look up to a pale blue sky and think about being depressed. Obviously, there's people that struggle, so I'm not going to speak for everyone. But for me, you know, winter's that time that seems to just make you feel like shit. But now I can't quite feel like shit. And I keep thinking about France. I keep thinking about fucking France. What a good time it was. Just get on your bike and go somewhere, will you? It's worth it.